Hey, Doreen Martin, Health and Resilience Coach here. And in this video, I want to share with you that big question. What is EFT? Emotional Freedom Technique. And I'll also share what it can do, how it can be useful, a little bit of history about how it started, and also how does it work. And for those of you who really like to look at the research, I'll share with you a study that's been conducted on it. And I also post some links about some of the research about it because it's now been well studied. So it's not just woo-woo anymore. Also, I want to share some incidences where it might be a good idea to seek the help of a professional EFT practitioner. So let's get into it. What is EFT? As I mentioned, it's Emotional Freedom Technique. And it's also known as tapping because part of what it does is you're tapping on different areas of your body. So EFT is so amazing because it incorporates a lot of really cutting edge modalities. Of course, when I say cutting edge, it doesn't mean necessarily it's always new. It's just the best of. For example, it uses the ancient elements of traditional Chinese medicine because if you've ever gone to see an acupuncturist, they're working with something called meridians, which are electrical systems in your body. Because what we've discovered is the body is electric, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So basically the meridians are EFT uses meridians in their most potent points and where they cross over. And so instead of having to use the needles, we're able to actually tap the different points to be able to access the same benefits. So traditional Chinese medicine and meridians is one aspect of EFT, tapping. Another aspect of EFT is that it uses exposure therapy. And so what it's doing is it's basically helping you amplify the feeling, the physical sensation or emotion that you want to address in a non-threatening, non-re-traumatizing way. That's really key to be able to disconnect it from the thought. So if you have a negative thought or a negative sensation, you're able to bring all of that up and then disconnect it. And so it's able to disconnect a negative thought from the emotion that's attached to it so that you can actually go back and think about the thing, but not be re-traumatized and triggered. And so that's an amazing aspect of EFT. Another aspect of EFT is neuro-linguistic programming, because if you understand certain things about how the brain works, you're able to use that to be able to disconnect negative belief systems or thought patterns. And so that's really, really amazing. It also uses some aspects of cognitive behavioral therapy with psychology, and also with a skilled practitioner, you can actually go into inner child work and help with that as well. So that's what EFT is. And some of the things that you can use it for are physical pain, emotional pain and emotional trauma, phobias, anxiety, stress, depression, and even limiting beliefs. And for me, I like to use it for all of those things. And also it's a big part of my stress and cravings fix program because it's able to deal with that as well. So that is what EFT is and some of the ways that you can use it. And I encourage you when you learn the technique to try it on everything because it's so much fun to see how it works and how powerful it is. And of course, the more you use it, the more skilled you are and the more you're able to see the benefits. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to create this series of videos, because I want you to be able to really understand how it works and also be able to troubleshoot when it's not working. You know, the number one reason why EFT doesn't work is that people are not using it. It's so simple. It's kind of hard to believe that it's so effective. And that's one of the traps that I fell into when I was first introduced with EFT. And so understanding what it is, how it works, and even understanding how to troubleshoot it will really help you be able to get the most benefits from this amazing modality. A little bit of history. So how did EFT come to be? Well, in traditional Chinese medicine, meridians, the ancient Chinese had understood that our bodies are made of a series of electrical systems. And when you work on those systems, you're able to bring the body back into balance, because the belief is that any kind of emotional or physical issue has something to do with energy balance. And so when that was applied, but then there was a man named Roger Callahan. He was a counselor and he was working with a client, Mary, who had a phobia, and her phobia was against water. And so it was so detrimental to her life that even taking a shower was an issue. She could only wipe herself off with a damp towel, or, she couldn't douse herself in water and actually have a bath because she was so traumatized by water. And as you can imagine, this is really affecting her quality of life. And Roger Callahan had been counseling her. It wasn't making any headway and was stumped. And, he was taking a lot of different courses, and he happened to be taking a healing touch course. And one day when he was having a session by the poolside with Mary, she said something that kind of like caught his attention. He had an epiphany moment. What she said was, I feel the anxiety, the tension, the nervousness in my stomach. Now, if you understand anything about traditional Chinese medicine, the meridians all run through an organ system, and all the meridians have an emotion attached to it. And it just so happened that the stomach meridian is basically attached to the emotion of fear and anxiety. And so Roger Callahan was taking a healing touch class, and it involved kinesiology. And he thought, what, let's give this a try, Mary. When you're talking about the anxiety that you're feeling in your stomach, tap on this spot over here. Well, this spot over here is the beginning of the stomach meridian. It's the kind of if you're looking at feeling your eye socket, there's a divot right under your iris. That is the beginning of the stomach meridian. And as she was tapping on it, she was talking about how she was feeling and her anxiety about water. And then, then she said, what, Dr. Callahan, I don't think I have my fear of water anymore. And she walked over to the pool. And from that moment on, this sounds like fiction, doesn't it? But she never had a problem with water again. And so Roger Callahan realized, he was onto something. And so he started experimenting with different meridians on the body and realized there were different sequences of tapping that could really disconnect a lot of health and emotional issues. Now, unfortunately, because he knew this unique information, he trained other people, and he charged $100,000 for the training to become a practitioner. So this was definitely something that was only accessible to people who had deep pockets, right? So it was for elite people only in terms of like finances. And a gentleman named Gary Craig, who was a performance coach and also an engineer, so nobody who was into the science or woo or anything like that, he came across Callahan's training, but he didn't want to, because in addition to having to pay $100,000, whenever you were a practitioner for Roger Callahan, if you wanted to get the tapping sequence, then you had to, again, pay money, thousands of dollars, to be able to get the proper tapping sequence for your client. So Gary Craig thought, what, let me just play around with these different areas of tapping and see what I can make of it. And sure enough, he found that if you just went through a simple sequence for everything, you're able to see the same results. And so now what's happened is Gary Craig decided that he was going to share this with the world. And this is what's become EFT, because when you tap through all of these tapping points, you're able to address a lot of health conditions that you want to be able to bring back into balance, emotional and physical. So that's how EFT started. And so basically, how does it work? So when you're thinking about meridians, analogy that I love to think about is that your house is wired in a certain way. There's a predictable pattern of wiring. And I guess to back up a little bit, I want to kind of propose the idea that your body runs on electricity. That might sound a little bit odd, but then it begins to make sense when you think about EKGs and how they're able to measure like your heartbeat, and that's something that's electrical system based. And also, if you think about it, if your heart stops beating, how do they reset it? They basically give you a surge of electricity to ramp it up again. Also, if you think about it, when you're walking across a carpeted floor on a cold day, and then you touch somebody, you have the static electricity because of that surge of electricity, and you feel that zap. Also, something else that helps you think about how your body is electric is, what do we run on? Electrolytes that are running through your system. And when you're dehydrated, your electrolytes don't run very well because your system electricity isn't working optimally. So when you have your electrolytes in balance, those are the spark plugs to your body. And so those are all like different metals and things that are running your body, right? So those are all things that are letting you know that your body runs on electricity. And how is this connected to EFT? Well, as I mentioned, EFT works with meridians, and meridians are the electrical systems and wiring running through your body. And so again, going back to the analogy of your house, you know, sometimes when there's a surge of electricity, there's a snap and all of a sudden power goes out of your house. So, you know, the light switch, when you flick it on and off, it doesn't really work, right? And then the appliance you're using, it doesn't do anything because there's no electricity running to it to power it. Well, that's the same thing that happens to a meridian when it goes out of balance. And certain things that make it go out of balance is some kind of a shock to your system, whether it be a physical impact or an emotional impact. And you get this zip, and all of a sudden you lose power and you're out of balance, right? Things stop flickering and working. And so what you're doing, and here's like a fancy word, is a piezoelectric effect, because when you're tapping on the different meridians, it's kind of like what you do when you're trying to fix a power surge in your house. What you're doing is like you're resetting the circuit breakers when you turn it off and on again. You've always all had this happen. The power comes back on, the light turns back on, the appliance that was not working suddenly starts buzzing or doing whatever it needs to do, and you're back in business, right? Same thing with meridians. When you're tapping on it, you're basically resetting the circuitry, and you're having the system be able to flow again. And so you have that energy system running, you're back into balance, and the negative symptoms or emotions go away or diminish. So that's how it works. Now, a study that I'd like to share with you that is really amazing is one done by a gentleman named Dawson Church. So Dawson Church is one of the first people who did a study with cortisol, which is your stress hormone. It's a steroid hormone that spikes whenever you're in a stressful situation. And what he did was he tested your saliva for cortisol levels and found that through tapping, you're able to decrease your cortisol response by 27%, which is a big deal, because when you think about it, when a body is in stress, in fight flight, especially when it's chronic, long-standing, that actually shuts down your rest and digest and healing state. And at this day and age, you know, we're pelted with a lot of different chronic stress, and so we need assistance to bring it back into a state of balance, meaning bring your cortisol levels down to an even level. And EFT has been shown to be able to do this, as I said, at a level of 20%, 27%, or sometimes even more. And the reason why this is a big deal is because you're literally, through EFT, calibrating your body from a state of fight, flight, and breaking down to a state of rest, digest, and healing. Isn't that powerful? And so if you have a chronic health condition, if you have an acute health situation, if you have like some kind of like serious stress response, anxiety, or depression, then this is really able to help you dial your body and brain back down to a place where it can heal. Also, with the situation with chronic stress, you know, when you start getting into a chronic stress condition, then the body begins to shut down in general, because when you're in fight flight and trying to get away from a life and death situation, your hormones don't need to work because you're not going to reproduce, right? And so your hormones start tanking and getting out of balance, and you're going to see symptoms of that. When you're in a state of fight flight, you don't need to, you know, have your digestion working. So your digestive enzymes begin to decrease, and you're less able to digest food because you're in fight flight. You don't need to digest food, right? So you get digestive issues, and 80% of your immune system is in your gut. And so when you're having gut issues on a chronic level and their digestion goes down, then you get more inflammation and your immune system becomes compromised. So you can see those are just some systems that are beginning to shut down, but you can see how that can really impact your overall health. So whatever your chronic health condition you're trying to heal, being able to bring down that stress response to those cortisol levels can really make a huge difference. So I hope that helps you understand the amazing benefits of emotional freedom technique. One of the things that we did when I was learning to be an EFT practitioner was our teacher asked us to practice something called the personal peace practice, PPP. And what we did was we listed 100 things that we wanted to heal or improve in our health and our life in general, and then tap on each of the things on your list of 100 until you felt like it had some sort of resolution. And the reason why this was so helpful is because you begin to see the benefits of EFT, but one of the reasons why it is so underutilized, this amazing technique, is because it seems so easy, people don't tend to use it, which is a funny psychological thing, right? When something is free and something seems too easy, people feel like they need to work for it to be valuable, and say they don't do it. So I would like to challenge you to try that PPP, personal peace practice, and list 100 things that you'd like to resolve in your life, and then tap on it every day and just see where the benefits are coming in. And as you practice, you can actually see some amazing results, and it will be life-changing. Now, one of the things I want to say is sometimes there's a benefit in working with a practitioner. It's kind of like, exercise. A lot of people can do it on their own and see amazing results, but there are some people that really, it's a personality thing or a situational thing. They're better off working with a personal trainer. So for example, one reason could be that you wouldn't do it, but for the fact that you're having somebody hold you accountable. That's one of the reasons why I ended up doing it with going to see an EFT practitioner. When I learned about EFT, I thought, wow, what amazing benefits that it's promising. And so I tried it with myself and I didn't see any results, and I thought it doesn't work, and I stopped. And then there was a friend who really said, you can benefit from EFT. Why don't you go visit this practitioner? She's really, really gifted. So I went to see the practitioner because I really trusted my friend. And I found out that, there are benefits because this practitioner is able to apply different techniques that are more advanced. Also, as with a personal trainer, I'm not going to push myself the way that she did, pushing more in the way of like really delving deeper into the different issues that I needed to have addressed. And also, she was able to see some of the blind spots, like some things that I couldn't see. For example, if you want to continue on with a personal trainer analogy, maybe your form isn't right, maybe you're not doing it correctly, maybe you're not doing enough reps. So when you're working with an EFT practitioner, it's the same thing. Yes, EFT is easy to do, but then there are different nuances and different ways to increase the ability to have it be effective. Another reason that it might be a good idea to look for a good practitioner to work with you is if you have something that's chronic and long-standing, because what could be happening is you have different aspects now that are involved with the imbalance that you're experiencing. In other words, it's something that's been a problem for so long that it's more complex. And so working with practitioner can really help you make progress faster. Another potential reason why it'd be a good idea to work with a practitioner is if you have like a serious trauma situation and you don't want to re-trigger it, because sometimes you can inadvertently re-traumatize yourself through EFT or any other modality for that matter. So it's not just EFT. In this series, I'm going to teach you how to work through some really traumatic experiences without re-traumatizing yourself. But sometimes some people wouldn't, they aren't comfortable doing that. So that's a good time to really think about working with a practitioner. Other than that, my goal in this series is to help you have all the tools, the best tools to be able to apply this on your own. And so it's going to include some troubleshooting, some advanced techniques, and also some tapping samples, some of the more common ones, so that you can understand and see some of the patterns of how it's done and how it works. And so I'm going to give you everything that I can so that you are able to be successful with this amazing modality. So all that helps. If you have any questions, please email me at dory@dorymartin.com. Also, I'd love to hear your success stories or anything that comes up for you as you're doing your tapping. Thanks a lot for listening, and I'll see you in the next video.